Napheesa Collier is in serious hot water after lying on Caitlin Clark on national television.
The WNBA All-Star coaching switch that everyone's been talking about just got a huge surprise. Napheesa Collier shared some really important secrets that totally changed what we thought we knew. The big news has come out, and trust me, this changes everything we thought about Caitlin Clark's coaching choice that made people upset. What do you think really happened when nobody was watching with this coaching mess?
The WNBA All-Star Draft was fun between Caitlin Clark and Napheesa Collier, the team captains, picking the players, picking the rosters. But the most interesting aspect was the coach swap, because Clark traded Cheryl Reeves, who was the coach of her team, or was to be the coach of her team, to Collier for Sandy Brondello, the coach of the New York Liberty. Of course, Reeves is Collier's head coach for the Minnesota Lynx, so that makes sense. But the drama is going to come from Reeves having previously been critical on social media about the amount of attention Clark received relative to the rest of the league, not to mention being the coach of Team USA that Caitlin Clark was so famously snubbed from.
So here's what happened. And I'm telling you right now, this story is going to get really interesting. The 2025 WNBA All-Star Game was supposed to be easy. Cheryl Reeves was going to coach Team Clark, while the New York Liberty's Sandy Brondello was going to coach Team Collier. Easy, right? Nope.
I don't know if this is in the rules. I don't really care. But I think we've already discussed we are going to trade coaches. Fee's going to take her coach, Sandy Brondello. Let's get it. Ooh. It's going to be amazing. Sorry, WNBA, if that's not in the rule. Sorry, ESPN, if that's not in the rules, but we just made it a rule. So, Sandy Brondello, come on over. Whoa! Let's get to it. You can coach Sabrina.
Then came the huge surprise that nobody expected. Clark said on TV, "I don't know if this is allowed. I don't really care. But I think we've already talked about trading coaches." Everyone who loves basketball went crazy. Social media went nuts. Wild stories started spreading, and everyone thought Caitlin Clark was trying to get back at Cheryl Reeves. But wait, big surprise coming.
How do you rate Napheesa's drafting skills for her NBA drafting? And for you, Fee, did you know that Cheryl was going to get traded beforehand before you and Clark did that, or was that just on the spot when that happened? So first for you, Napheesa.
Oh, I think Fee knows what she wants, so her draft picks were all great. I'm happy that she, got Courtney, she got Cheryl, so the whole Minnesota Lynx finna be there. So I'm happy about that. So she's a great drafter.
Yeah, watch out. I might be a GM one day. No, I would hate that job. Yes, I texted Caitlin before to ask if we could trade for Cheryl. So yes, it was pre-planned.
Napheesa Collier just told us the real story. And guys, it's not what we all thought. I texted Caitlin before to ask if we could trade coaches. So yes, it was planned ahead of time, Collier said. Wait, what? You mean all this drama about Clark saying no to Coach Reeves was completely wrong? Let me explain this to you, because this is actually crazy. Everyone and their mom thought Caitlin Clark was acting like a spoiled star, basically saying, "I don't want that coach." The story was that Clark was being mean to Reeves. Maybe because of all the Olympic trouble from last year where Clark didn't get picked for Team USA, a team that Reeves was coaching. But Napheesa Collier just changed the whole story. She's the one who started this whole thing. She texted Clark asking if they could make the coach trade happen. This wasn't about Clark saying no to anybody. This was about Collier wanting to keep her regular coach for the All-Star game. Now, if you know anything about basketball, this actually makes total sense. Collier has played for no other coach except Reeves since she started playing in 2019. Of course, she'd want to stick with the coach who's been helping her get better for 6 years. It's like asking if you'd rather work with your favorite teacher or get stuck with someone totally new for the biggest test of the year. But here's where it gets really cool. The way this trade was shown on TV made it look like Clark was the one making all the decisions. She is going to take her coach, Cheryl Reeves, Sandy Braun. Let's get it. Clark made it sound like she was making the big decision, when really she was just going along with what Collier had already asked for. This is actually super smart planning by both players, but especially by Collier. She gets what she wants, keeping her familiar coach while letting Clark take the blame for what looked like a bad decision. Meanwhile, Clark gets Sandy Brondello, who just coached the Liberty to win the championship. It's actually a win-win situation that looked like drama. The news coverage of this whole situation has been totally crazy. Everyone was writing stories about Clark's shocking decision and what it meant for her friendship with Reeve. Sports TV people were studying every word, every move, every possible hidden meaning behind the trade. Meanwhile, the real story was sitting right there. Collier planned the whole thing. And can we talk about how Collier handled telling everyone, "Watch out. I might be a team boss one day"? Collier said. She quickly added, "No, I hate that job." This woman has a good sense of humor about it. She's basically admitting she controlled the whole situation, but she's doing it with a smile. The timing of telling this story is perfect too. After the Minnesota Lynx beat the LA Sparks 9,182 on Thursday, Collier talked about the trade, so she waited until after a win. When everyone's feeling good to drop this truth bomb smart, totally. What's even more crazy is how this completely changes the story around Clark and Reeves' friendship. All this time, people were thinking there was some kind of fight between them, that Clark was making a statement by refusing to work with Reeve. But if Collier was the one who started the trade, then Clark was actually just being a good teammate by going along with it. This also shows how differently the news treats these two players. When Clark makes a move, it's studied like crazy. Every decision is seen as controversy or drama. But when Collier makes the same move, it's treated as normal basketball planning. The unfair treatment is real, and it's obvious. Let's be honest about something else here. The friendship between Clark and Reeve has been hard. From the beginning, Reeve was very critical about how much attention Clark got compared to the rest of the league, leading into the Fever Stars' first season. And then there's the whole Olympic situation where Clark was famously not picked for a team that Reeve was coaching. But here's the thing. Maybe that problem is solved now. Maybe the coaching trade wasn't about avoiding conflict at all. Maybe it was just about two smart players making a smart decision that helped both of them. Clark gets a championship coach. Collier gets to stay with her longtime mentor. Sometimes the easiest explanation is the right one. The All-Star draft itself was actually pretty fun beyond just the coaching drama. Clark picked Fever teammate Aaliyah Boston with the first overall pick, which was a nice move. Collier then chose Breanna Stewart of the New York Liberty with the second pick, going for proven star power. What's cool is how both captains approached their drafts. Clark was clearly thinking about teamwork and familiarity, picking teammates and players. She had good relationships with Collier, was thinking about winning, grabbing UConn connections, and proven veterans who could perform under pressure. After Clark announced the pre-planned coach trade during the All-Star draft, she tried to deal sort to soberly to Team Collier so that Bron Diallo could coach her New York Liberty star Breanna Stewart. This shows that even after the coaching trade, both players were still thinking smartly about how to make their teams better.
Napheesa Collier was on an interview with CBS on a podcast and was asked about what she was most excited about for the coming season. And she said the CBA, not winning a championship, not running it back, but the CBA. And then she was asked a bunch of questions about the CBA, and she acknowledged everybody else except for the one player who's made people notice, and that's Caitlin Clark. A good 15, 20-minute interview, and at no point does she acknowledge that Caitlin Clark is what has given them, or who has given them, the leverage in negotiation, if they have any leverage to begin with. No, instead, she talked about how they have filled up the arenas. She talked about how people are watching on TV. She talked about unrivaled, in fact, her creation. At no point does she mention, Caitlin Clark brought eyes to this product. And now when we walk through an airport, people recognize us. In fact, she said that people now notice them. Why the hell do you think that is? No one knew who the hell you were until Caitlin Clark showed up. This is the non-stop narrative. I mean, man, you thought Napheesa Collier was smart enough to recognize this. But even she is stuck in delusion syndrome. It seems like no one can be helped. Even after Cheryl Miller has told the world, everybody despises Caitlin Clark. They all hate on her. Damn shame.
The fact that Collier refused to part ways with her unrivaled business partner shows she's thinking beyond just basketball. These players have business relationships, endorsement deals, and personal friendships that all factor into their decisions. It's not just about the game anymore. It's about building a brand and maintaining professional relationships. One thing that's been completely overlooked in all this drama is how well both teams actually turned out. Clark's team includes Sabrina Ionescu, Aja Wilson, and Sato Seibel in the starting five, which is absolutely stacked. Even with some injuries, this team has serious firepower. Collier's team responds by using her own firepower. Collier has a strong bench that includes Skylar Diggins, Angel Reese, Kelsey Plum, and others. And up front is Brianna Stewart, Alicia Gray, Nicaragua Mika, and Paige. Bookers. Both teams are loaded with talent, which means the actual game should be incredible regardless of who's coaching. The coaching trade might have been the headline grabber, but the real story is how competitive this all-star game is going to be. These aren't just exhibition teams. Both rosters are constructed to win. The competitive balance is perfect, and that's what fans really want to see. What's also interesting is how this whole situation reveals the politics of the WNBA. ESPN's Malika Andrews reported while hosting the All-Star Game draft that the WNBA has greenlit the coaches' trade. Clark and Collier engineered the league, was clearly caught off guard by this move, but had to roll with it. That's some serious player power right there. The fact that players can just decide to trade coaches on live television, and the league has to approve it on the spot, shows how much influence the star players have in the WNBA. This would never happen in the NBA. Imagine LeBron James just deciding to swap coaches during an all-star draft. The league would shut that down immediately. But the WNBA is different. The players have more direct relationships with league officials, and there's more flexibility in how things get handled. In some ways, this makes the league more player-friendly. But it also creates situations like this where narratives can get completely twisted. The media coverage of this whole situation has been a perfect example of how stories can get completely misunderstood. Everyone was so focused on the drama angle that they missed the actual story. Collier played this perfectly. She got what she wanted while letting everyone else create their own narratives. This is actually brilliant marketing for the All-Star Game. Think about it. Instead of just another exhibition game that people might casually watch, we now have a storyline that everyone's talking about. The coaching trade generated more buzz than any roster announcement could have. Whether it was intentional or not, this controversy is going to drive viewership. The real winners here are the fans. We get a competitive All-Star Game with two loaded rosters, coached by two championship-level coaches, with enough backstory and drama to keep everyone engaged. Plus, we get to see how Clark and Reeve actually interact. Now that the controversy has been revealed to be much less controversial than everyone thought. Looking ahead to the actual game, this coaching situation could actually be fascinating to watch. Bron Diallo just coached the Liberty to a championship, so she knows how to get the most out of star players. Reeve has been developing players for years and knows how to maximize talent. Both coaches are going to be motivated to prove their teams are the best. The player dynamics are going to be interesting to Collier. Also decided to keep her fellow UConn Huskies close, tapping alums Brianna Stewart and Paige Bookers for her starting lineup. That's three former UConn players who already have chemistry and know each other's games. That could be a significant advantage. Meanwhile, Clark's team has a different kind of chemistry. Clark's first picks in each category were fellow Fever players and starter Aaliyah Boston and reserve player Kelsey Mitchell. She's building around players she works with every day, which could lead to some beautiful basketball. The bottom line is that Napheesa Collier just completely changed the narrative around this whole coaching trade situation. What everyone thought was Clark making a controversial statement was actually just two players making a smart strategic decision that benefited both of them. The media got played, the fans got entertained, and we're all going to tune in to see how this plays out on the court. This whole situation is a perfect example of why you can't always trust the first story you hear. Sometimes the truth is much more interesting than the drama, and sometimes the drama is just a distraction from the real story. In this case, the real story is two smart players making moves that set them up for success. And that's actually more impressive than any controversy could be. Napheesa Collier just proved she's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. The coaching trade was her idea all along, and she let the media create their own drama. What do you think about this revelation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button and subscribe for more WNBA content that breaks down the real stories behind the headlines.